Well, 24 hours after Nawaz Sharif made a big issue about the K word at the UNGA assembly, of course, all eyes were on Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and post his complete snub to Pakistan, we are getting you the first reaction from the National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz. He spoke to Managing Editor Rahul Kanwal in this first and exclusive on Headlines Today.
This has been a regular practice for the last 30 years, and I don't think there's anything new about it. In this case, perhaps the timing was not totally right, because the substantial discussion on Kashmir were yet to start. This meeting on 25th August was to declare the agenda and so on and so forth. And I think if the request had come earlier, that the timing is not right, then probably it could have been considered. But in this case, the message came at a time when one of the Kashmiri leaders was already in the High Commission. So there was nothing that he could respond.
Managing Editor Rahul Kanwal is now joining us on the phone line. In fact, from New York, he was the one who got this first and exclusive interview of Pakistan's National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz. Rahul, what is your big takeaway from this interview? Of course, an admission from the Pakistan that probably that meeting with the separatists was ill-timed.
What we've just seen, Ankit, is very, very significant. The Pakistan National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz opening a massive window of opportunity at the Waldorf Astoria here in New York, when he's virtually expressed regret about the timing of the meeting between Nawaz Sharif, between the Pakistan High Commissioner and Hurriyat leaders. He's saying if Pakistan had known earlier that India would react in the way that it would, maybe the High Commissioner of Pakistan would not have met with Hurriyat leaders. And this is very crucial, because this is the window of opportunity that India was looking out for, and that's not where this interview ends, Ankit, because the Pakistan National Security Advisor goes on to add that in future maybe it's best if meetings on Kashmir, meetings on Sir Creek, meetings on Siachen, meetings on the tricky issues are held through the back door. They're held through track 2 diplomacy, and not when India and Pakistan's official delegations are meeting each other. He says, let's officially try to deal with what is easy pickings. Let's deal first with trade, tourism. Let's also deal with business issues on which we can find common interest. Let's deal with those publicly. This is very significant, because so far Pakistan has not expressed any remorse or regret about the decision to meet with Hurriyat leaders. Now, in a sudden and very abrupt decision, because remember, this was an interview we were pushing from the day we came to New York, and we were told it'll happen, but it'll happen after what? After Prime Minister Modi's speech. And in the speech that the Prime Minister made at the United Nations General Assembly this morning, he said that India is ready for serious bilateral dialogue with Pakistan. And he said that that window of opportunity is still open. Pakistan has clutched on to that straw, used it to now open a big window of opportunity, saying that we regret the fact that the Pakistan High Commissioner met with the Hurriyat leaders. The timing was all wrong. We will not do it again. Now, this is the opportunity that Modi was waiting for. That opportunity now beckons, and it will be interesting to see how the Ministry of External Affairs will react to this big breaking interview, playing live and exclusively on the India Today group. And I want to go across to Headlines Today's Strategic Affairs editor Gaurav Sawant, who's been tracking the Prime Minister and his delegation all through the day today. Gaurav, you've been speaking to your sources in the Ministry of External Affairs. What are they making of this exclusive interview that Headlines Today has scooped with Pakistan's National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz? Gaurav?
Rahul, congratulations on the scoop. Sartaj Aziz telling you that perhaps talking to Hurriyat was wrong, the timing was all wrong. The Ministry of External Affairs has now officially reacted to this. Syed Akbaruddin, the spokesperson for Government of India, has said that India is always open to bilateral talks with Pakistan according to the Simla Agreement and the Lahore Declaration. So once again, talks that had been derailed by Pakistan's High Commissioner Abdul Basit talking to Hurriyat leaders on the eve of Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh's travel to Pakistan at Pakistan's request to talk about resumption of dialogue. Those talks, God willing, will once again be back on track, and this window of opportunity that your interview with Sartaj Aziz has provided perhaps will be taken up by India, of course, cautiously. Government of India saying they're open to talks with Pakistan. They're open to resumption of bilateral talks. Talks were anyway on at the level of the High Commissioners and officials of the High Commission. But this perhaps will pave the way for Foreign Secretary level talks once again, Rahul.
That would be very significant, because the interview would then be the first step in the resumption of the dialogue process between India and Pakistan. But let's not take too much credit, Gaurav, because the reality is this is a public enunciation of something I'm fairly sure has been brewing over the last 72 hours while Sushma Swaraj, Sartaj Aziz have been here in New York. The Prime Minister of India was here. Nawaz Sharif was over here. Could this have been worked out at the back end? Because it's too bad to assume that Sartaj Aziz gives us an interview and within half an hour, Syed Akbaruddin is cleared to make a public statement that this is something that India welcomes and that there's a possibility that the dialogue process will resume. Surely something's been happening behind the scenes which led to this public declaration. Do you know more about that, Gaurav?
Rahul, back channel has been on throughout. Back channel never stopped with Pakistan, and that is something which is significant. Now, in the back channel, India impressed upon Pakistan that after Narendra Modi took over as Prime Minister of India, the template was very clear. And that if Pakistan wants resumption of bilateral dialogue, Pakistan has to look at the big picture, and that is resumption of dialogue, solution of Kashmir issue, Siachen, terrorism, the entire gamut of composite dialogue. Does Pakistan want to hold that hostage, just talking to the Hurriyat, who are actually non-entities, and Pakistan has seen the light of day because there is no logic of talking to the Hurriyat. Pakistan, from what my sources tell me, understood this. Sources in Pakistan government have told you and they have told me that perhaps Abdul Basit went out of the way. He overstepped his jurisdiction in talking to the Hurriyat, and that was not something that was expected of him, especially at a time when Pakistan had requested that Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh travels to Pakistan. Calling the Hurriyat at that point of time was a snub to India, and Government of India could not have accepted it, Rahul.
No, let me just try and put this in context, Gaurav, because what Sartaj Aziz told us was that there was really no reason to meet with the Hurriyat at that time, given that Kashmir was not on the dialogue table just at the moment when the foreign secretaries were meeting. Their meeting was more about finding a way to resume the bilateral dialogue process, and therefore Kashmir was not the main issue on the table just at that time. He, however, makes it clear that in any future resolution as well, in any future dialogue between India and Pakistan, Hurriyat and the people of Kashmir, they believe, are stakeholders. So that's a position that they're not going back from. But they're saying that maybe you don't need to meet with Hurriyat leaders publicly. Maybe that can happen through the back channels, which is what was happening over the last 3 or 4 years. And he accepted that because India and Pakistan were deadlocked, therefore Nawaz Sharif made the comment that he did about plebiscite and referendum in the United Nations General Assembly, which otherwise hasn't been happening for the last several years. I want to now play out the official reaction from Syed Akbaruddin, Joint Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, reacting to the exclusive interview done by Headlines today with Pakistan's National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz. Here is Syed Akbaruddin.
I think we made it very clear that India stands committed to all bilateral interactions with Pakistan in accordance with the Simla Agreement and the Lahore Declaration. Both these ensure that we pursue the path of bilateralism. Both these indicate that we will not accept, either side will not accept intervention in each other's domestic matters.
That was Sayyar Akbaruddin, and that essentially means that India says the doors for dialogue are open. Things are moving fast here in New York. It's past midnight back home. It's 12:10, but here in New York, it's midday, and it's turning out to be a day of hectic political activity. Remember, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi made his debut speech at the United Nations General Assembly, and he was quite hard against Pakistan, saying that there is no reason why the issue of Kashmir should be discussed on a multilateral forum. He, however, reaffirmed India's commitment to discuss all bilateral issues, including Kashmir, on a one-to-one basis with Pakistan, saying there's no need to bring anyone else. Gaurav, is there any sense yet of when the foreign secretaries of India and Pakistan could meet, now that it seems quite clear after this big interview that Headlines Today has done, that there is a very strong possibility that India and Pakistan's foreign secretaries will be meeting soon? A new date will be announced soon. Has it been decided already, Gaurav?
Not as yet, but of course the foreign secretaries, the foreign ministers and the prime ministers would be meeting at multilateral events. There is a SAARC event in Kathmandu where India, Pakistan and all the SAARC countries will be meeting. There are other SAARC events, there are other multilateral events including in New York where all the foreign ministers were meeting. So India and Pakistan have been in touch, but on a bilateral basis, India and Pakistan being in touch, those dates will once again have to be worked out. And, you know, India would still want some differences to be ironed out. This was a snub, the way India saw this. When Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif came for Prime Minister Narendra Modi swearing in, you and I well know, Rahul, India at that point of time told Pakistan it is unacceptable meeting the Hurriyat before meeting the Indian Prime Minister. That shouldn't become the new template. And the new template is you don't talk to the Hurriyat, you talk to Government of India and Government of Pakistan talk. Now there is a window here, Rahul. Hurriyat leaders are free to travel to Pakistan and meet the Pakistani leadership. They are free to travel to a third country and meet the Pakistani leadership, but not when Pakistani leadership, diplomatic or political, is coming to India to meet the Indian leadership. So India is also leaving a window open for Pakistan. So as you rightly pointed out, Rahul, both sides leaving a window open for each other for dialogue to resume once again. No timeline yet though.
Yeah, but there's still a difference in the positions by the two countries, because Sartaj Aziz told us that they will still meet Hurriyat leaders. He says there's no question of going back on that Hurriyat is still an important part of the Kashmir question. But he says that there is no reason to meet with Hurriyat leaders before a big bilateral meeting on the resumption of dialogue between India and Pakistan. That's the nuance, and I think that was the big bugbear for India as well, which is why this big decision was taken. In case you've just tuned in past midnight here in Headlines Today, I want to play out bigger excerpts, a meteor chunk of the interview that we did with Pakistan's National Security Advisor that's making headlines past midnight in New Delhi. This is Sartaj Aziz speaking exclusively to the India Today group.
This has been a regular practice for the last 30 years, and I don't think there's anything new about it. In this case, perhaps the timing was not totally right, because the substantial discussion on Kashmir were yet to start. This meeting on 25th August was to declare the agenda and so on and so forth. And I think if the request had come earlier, that the timing is not right, then probably it could have been considered. But in this case, the message came at a time when one of the Kashmiri leaders was already in the High Commission.
That was Sartaj Aziz opening a huge window of opportunity to resume the India-Pakistan dialogue process, which frankly was completely stalled, and questions were already being asked whether India and Pakistan have boxed themselves into a corner from where it will be difficult for either country to emerge. But in this big, bold gesture that's been announced by Sartaj Aziz in the interview that we've just done with him, Pakistan has taken many steps back, saying that the timing was wrong, expressing regret and remorse for the fact that the High Commissioner of Pakistan in India went out and met the Hurriyat leadership just before the foreign secretaries were to meet, saying it will not happen again. If it happens, it will happen through a track 2. It will happen through the back channels. It will not happen in public in this fashion. This is the opportunity that Narendra Modi was waiting for. Remember, Sushma Swaraj is still in New York. Sartaj Aziz I just met, he's just gone out for lunch. He's in New York as well. Will we see action take place soon, or will we see a more calibrated approach? Will we see the two foreign secretaries decide now, which is more likely to happen, that there will be a meeting, a new date will be announced, and then things will move once again? So the whole hope and optimism that had gone out of the India-Pakistan equation with this one interview, with that one public declaration, coming back again, and all of it happening live exclusively on Headlines Today.